Tadvaram Paryaya Vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya Dhimahi Tanno Guruh Prachodayate Om. Om Yoga Maharishi Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Om Puduvai Kalaimamani Puduvai Shakti Yogacharini Ammaji Meenakshi Devi Bhavanani Guru Mata Ki Jai. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Namaste, Swagatam, Bonjour, Buongiorno, Buonasera, Buonanotte, Huya, More, Boredha, Kio Ora, Salamat Pagi, Ayu Bovan, Shubh Dinam Suprapad. What a beautiful day to be with all of you once again. Our 79th week of Scintillating Saturdays. And today, in this part of the world, we are celebrating Mattu Pongal as part of our 4-day Pongal celebrations, which is the core of the Tamil culture. Yesterday we had the Pongal, the day before that Bhogi. So Bhogi, where you burn away and let go of all the old stuff, the junk, clearing the junk, recycle bin stuff. And then yesterday Pongal, starting of a wonderful new auspicious beginning. Thai Porandal Vari Porakum, they say, when Thai Masam, the month called Thai comes, a new way will open up and you'll find answers to your questions. And today a day where we celebrate the role of the cows, the bulls in our life. Pongal is primarily a farmer festival and hence great importance given to the cows and the bulls. Today they'll be decked up and a lot of fun will happen. And then tomorrow, Kanum Pongal, well, Karinal. This Karinal is a day that you go around and meet everybody and say hi. Well, during COVID times, especially with the Omicron, well, say hi through Facebook and WhatsApp and Messenger. Keep appropriate physical distance for the sake of yourself and others. Today's topic is a continuation of last week where we started off on asana. We said asana is sthira sukham asanam. We also looked at the concept that asana is a state of being where you are at ease with yourself and the opposites no longer control you, but you have transcended the opposites, dvandva anabhigata, and you have transcended the opposites. Raga, dvesha, vimuktaistu vishayanindriyascharan. Atma vashye videyatma prasada madhigacchati, says Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. The same concept, dvandvatita. What a beautiful concept to aim for and to work towards. We also looked at the concept that asana comes from a word asi, which means to be. So to be rather than to do. And we looked at how initially there's a lot of doing. That is the posing, pose. It then becomes a posturing of energies, the posture. And then you come into a state of being which is equanimous, harmonious and balanced. Samatvam yoga uchate. That sama, bhava and samatvam is a state where the asana becomes poise. Pose to posture to poise. We looked at that. Today I wanted to share with you some thoughts on how the performance of asana, when we are performing the asanas, of which there are a multitude, and when we are performing the asana, what is it that is happening? What is it that we are bringing into manifestation? And for this, we need to understand a few concepts. One, asanas are the best simulation techniques. So the ancient rishis who were pure scientists, they have given us these simulation techniques through which we can simulate various experiences. So we can simulate an experience without having to go through the experience. You can simulate something, which means that you experience it, but you don't have to go through it. It is like, experiencing the moon without having to go through all the trouble of traveling to the moon. So we have flight simulation, all these type of simulations, zero gravity simulations. Even in medical training today, medical simulation is the sort of hot pancake. The yogis, in their infinite wisdom, have created beautiful simulation techniques. So the yogis said, well, we are part of this whole world. We are part of everything. We are part of this ecological system, where we are moved from being ego-logical, egocentric to ecological. You are part of the whole environment and the ecology. So they said, we would like to know what a tree feels like. We would want to know what a cow feels like, what a horse feels like. And in order to experience what fellow beings were feeling, they put themselves into different postures. And they found that by putting yourself into these postures, you can have that experience as a simulation. And the best example is always Shavasana. Shavasana is the simulation of the death experience. So to experience death without having to die for it, that is Shavasana. What beautiful ingenuity of these grand masters, the great Maharishis. Another concept that Ammaji beautifully brings into this is, she says, asanas are a means to exercise, to exorcise. So exorcise means to get rid of the negativities. One of the famous movies when I was growing up was The Exorcist. It was the most scary movie of those days. And everybody was like, oh my God, that movie, Exorcist. You want to exorcise, you want to clean out, you want to get rid of all the negativities that are there within you. Now these negativities may just be the primordial memories that are stored in us. Because we as a human being have gone through multiple incarnations as different life forms. And our reptilian memories of when we were a snake, when we were a cockroach, when we were a lion, when we were a tiger, when we were a turtle, when we were a fish, when we were a bird, all these memories are part and parcel of who we are today. But these are old primitive memories. And the more you hold on to them, the more you will be locked in conditional behavior. So you are locked in conditional behavior, which is basically stimulus response or action reaction. And you have not given yourself a chance to evolve beyond the spinal cord and brainstem. So we want to evolve beyond the spinal cord and brainstem into the cortical aspects of being human, the higher centers of the brain that enable us to truly be human. So all these practices are giving us an opportunity to go back, recreate those experiences and let go. So when you go into Bhujangasana, and especially if you do the Bhujangini Mudra, you hiss like a snake. You go and do the Simha Nada. What you are doing? You are going into that experience, going back, looking at that experience, those old primitive primordial memories, and you are exorcising them. You are clearing them out so that you can start to once again, or for the first time, be truly human. Exercise to exorcise. This is a beautiful concept Ammaji often gives us. Now, along with this, I would like to bring a few postulates. You often hear people talk about the psychosomatics of asana. So psycho implies the mind and above. There's a slight difference in the Western concept of psyche and the Indian concept. The Indian concept of psyche implies your connection right up to the Atma. So right up to the Atma is psyche. Whereas normally when they talk of psyche, they talk about the emotions and the thoughts, the feelings. This is what people think is the psyche. But the psyche in Indian culture goes all the way until your connection with your own self, the highest Atma. Uddharet Atma Atmanam, that psyche, that highest aspect. So normally we talk about how when you do asanas, there is a psychosomatic effect. And that you are utilizing the mind to influence the body. When you use the mind to influence the body, it is called psychosomatic. Now if you use the body to influence the mind and above, it is called somato-psychic. So mind being used, or used in the proper way, right useness. The mind being used to control the body, modulate. Let's use the word modulate. Control seems so negative these days with all the control freaks that are there every place. Mind and its modulation of the body, psychosomatic. Body and its modulation of the mind, somato-psychic. So psychosomatics and somato-psychic. So here when we are talking about this, the choice that we are making, now we can choose to lie in bed, we can choose to go out, get drunk and lie in a ditch, we can choose to go out and jump into the lake, we can choose to go skiing, we can choose to go hiking, we can choose to do nothing, we can choose to be a slug. Well, all of that we are doing. What we are choosing influences the body. So the influence of the mind over the body, psychosomatics, and this component is coming into play when we are choosing to do the practices. When you choose to do the asana, the psychosomatics are coming in as the power of choice. So the mind says, I am going to put out the yoga mat or whatever you put out, and I am going to sit down and I am going to practice these asanas. Fine, the mind has guided the body. Now, when the body starts to do these practices, the body is starting to do this practice. So as the body goes into the practice, what you are doing is the body starts to influence the mind. Because when the body is put into a stable position, the mind starts to attain stability. When you start to move the body in a certain mindful flow, it influences the mind to also have a harmonious balance. So utilizing the soma, which is what we have, so the soma to influence the psyche. For example, when you are very depressed, you are feeling very down, you are feeling like you are no good in anything, well, go into some asanas which are opening the chest. When you open the chest and you bend back, this opening of the chest, it doesn't matter. It could be from standing, it could be from sitting, lying down, whatever. But the moment you start opening your chest wide like this, what you have done is utilizing the body to create a positive modulation and impact on the mind. And suddenly, you who are very depressed, very dull, very down on yourself, start to have a sense of self-esteem, positive self-esteem, called ICYER Swabhiman, Swa-abhiman. You start to have, in Tamil we call it Suya Maryadai. You have that confidence, that openness. You're like, wow, I can face the world. What you have done is you have used the body position to posture. This is where the posturing aspect comes in. You are using the pose to posture a change in attitude. You are cultivating a change in attitude through the body. So the body The soma is being used to change the way you feel, change the way you think, and change the way you connect with the Atma, using the body. Now you may be one of those who's in one of those egotistical moods and I am everything and without me nothing can go on. Well, this is where the front bending, forward bending asanas, coming into asanas where you bring your head down. Bringing the head down is a sign of humility. Head below the heart. These are the practices where you come down, dharmic asana. In all cultures, whenever we went to a place of worship, whenever we were in the presence of someone who was respected or an elder, we always bowed down. In Indian culture, we would lie down flat. It was called Ashtang Namaskaram. In the Surya Namaskar, we have the Ashtang Namaskaram. Many people yesterday were calling it Shashtanga Namaskaram. Shashtangam is when all parts of the body are touching the ground. Shashtanga. Ashtanga. Ashtanga is when only 8 parts. The feet, the knees, the shoulders, the arms and the forehead or the chin. When we prostrate, when we bring our head down, what we are doing? We are bringing the head down. Dharmic asana, Padahastasana, Paschimottanasana. Doesn't matter what the asana. The moment you bring your head down, what you are doing is you are now posturing, inculcating in the mind the attitude of humility. So when you are depressed and dull, you need asanas that open the chest to enhance your self-esteem, self-confidence and move forward. You have to move out of that depression by moving forward, by opening your chest. But if you are already out there, I know it all, those people who know it all, well, there the danger is you have to stop being there and you have to come back by bringing the head down. Such an important change in attitude that comes through asana. This is where utilizing the body to change the way we think, feel, emote and connect. Similarly, you will find that when you do the twisting postures, it is not just a twist. In fact, all the asanas are based on working on the spine. Because the human spine, which is called Meru Danda or Brahma Danda, is said to be the walking stick of God. It is the medium through which the divine can produce effect. Walking implies movement, effect. So the effect of the divine is occurring through us, through the spine. No doubt about it. The spine connects everything. So this spine needs to be healthy. You are as healthy as your spine. You're as healthy as your spine. So what did the yogis say? They say, let us get your spine healthy. And so you had the front bending asanas, the back bending asanas, which are flexion, extension at the spine. And then the twists. The twist to the right, the twist to the left. And what do? You start to twist all the joints of your spine. Not only are you twisting the joints of your spine, you are developing new perspectives in life. When you perform asanas that twist your spine, you are developing new perspectives of life. When you lie down or when you crawl around and you look up, you are looking at the world in a different way than when you stand up on 2 legs and look down upon everyone. The moment we human beings stood up, we started to look down on fellow creatures. So what do? You go back onto the floor. Go onto the floor. Lie down in Bhujangasana and look up, and suddenly you are looking at the world from a new perspective. You bend backwards, go into the Chakrasana, the wheel posture, and look at the world in a new dimension. You come into Dhanurasana and look at the world in a new dimension. You twist into one of the twisting postures, Ardha Matsyendra, the Brahma Danda and other asanas. And suddenly what happens? You start to have a new perspective towards life. Your body work, the soma, has started to influence the psyche. So the somato-psychic effects are actually often underestimated. If you go and look at the literature on the net, you will find very few people have talked about the somato-psychic effects of yoga practices. There are dozens and dozens of papers on psychosomatics of yoga. Somato-psychics, not much. And well, most probably you'll hear some of my articles there. Because you are using the body. You are using the body to influence the mind and above. By putting yourself into different positions, you are simulating a new experience, and by virtue of that new experience, you are growing in your perspective. You are becoming a more wholesome human being whose perspective encompasses the perspectives of other fellow beings. Suddenly you are changing. You want to bring about stability in the mind. In the asana, go into Parvatasana, the Meru Asana, the mountain posture. And in that you find that stability. As you are in that asana, what you start to realize is what it feels like to be a mountain. Where does the mountain find its strength? Where does the mountain find its balance? Where does the mountain find its stability? And as you contemplate this, suddenly you start to develop those very qualities you have contemplated. This is why asana is not just physical exercise. That is how the yoga industry practices it today. Exercise. The only time I use the word exercise is exercise to exorcise. Ammaji's beautiful phrase there. By doing these practices, you are clearing out something, clearing out the junk. Exercise to exercise is fine. But what is very important here is that you are, by your choice, that is the psychosomatics. Because the mind has to choose to do it. If the mind chooses to goof off, none of this is going to happen. So first of all, there has to be Ichcha Shakti, willpower. That there's an intent, I want to try to change, which means you have to first of all be aware that you need to change something. If you already think you are perfect, there's no hope for you. If you already think you know it all, there's no hope for you. This is why humility is the first step in all learning. Humility is the first step in all learning. To realize, as Abhaya says, Kattrad kai mannalavu Kalladadu ulagalavu, Kattradu kai mannalavu, Kalladadu ulagalavu. What we know is not even held in a fist. What we don't know is the whole universe. When you start to realize that, that is that Ananta Samapatibhyam that Patanjali has talked about. Contemplate the fact that there is so much. What you know is finite. What you know is finite. What you don't know is infinite. Ananta Samapatibhyam. And you are growing towards it. Not that you say, oh, I will never know it all, so why should I do anything? Well, keep growing. Keep making the effort. Because Purushartha, self-effort, is the key. It is the currency of spirituality. Self-effort is the currency of spiritual growth. So, we have to make the effort. And when you put yourself into the asanas, every asana, when you stand in samasthiti, the name of the asana gives you the clue. This is what the rishis said. The name gives you the clue. Samasthiti. The standing, equibalanced posture. What does it mean? Sama. Sama means balance. Sthiti means stability. You put yourself in a position which is balanced and steady, Soma. Automatically what will happen? Your mind, your emotions and your own connection to yourself becomes stable. The whole definition of health in Indian culture is based on swasth. Swa ast, to be yourself. That is to be healthy. Swa ast. Swa is the self. Swa ast, swasth, is when you are yourself. You are established in who you truly are. That is the moment you are perfectly healthy. Till then, you are unhealthy. Swasth. How is it defined? Acharya Shushrut, 2000 plus years ago. Samadosha, Sama Agnischa, Samadhatu Malakriyam, Prasanna Atma Indriya Manam, Swast Ityabhidiyate. Sama is the first part. Samadosha, Sama Agnischa, Samadhatu. All have to be Sama. How does that Sama come? Put yourself in Sama Sthiti Asana. Don't go looking for somebody to do it for you. You put yourself into Samasthiti. Oh, Dr. Ananda, all these asanas are very difficult. Samasthiti, if you can stand on both feet, you can do Samasthiti. 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 You put yourself in that position. 50% of the weight on the right, 50% of weight on the left. You have found that balance. 60% of your weight to the front, 40% to the back. So that you are balanced, but you are ever ready to meet the challenge. You are not balanced and dead. You are balanced and alive. So 50-50 right and left, but 60 to the front, 40 to the back, so that you are balanced but you are ready to respond appropriately. You are responsible, responsive and human with responsibility. That is Samasthiti. When you lie down and you start to lift the legs, what are you doing? You are posturing a change in energy patterns. You lift the legs up even more into Viparita Karani. Viparita Karani, though today is practiced as a shoulder stand or a poor shoulder stand or the elbow stand, when you have pillows that you can prop up so that you have Viparita Karani pillows, they cost a lot. Or legs up against the wall is called Viparita Karani. Actually, Viparita Karani just means basically the inverted posturing. Viparita means upside down. Karani is to perform. Perform a posture that is upside down, inverted posture. And there are people who feel that even Shavasana was part of the Viparita Karani in the Hatha Yoga tradition, and later on became the Shavasana, which became the headstand separately. So many people, when they talk about headstand, which is not mentioned in the Hatha Pradipika, Geranda Samhita, Shiva Samhita, you don't have that. This has come in much later. But there is a thought which I also subscribe to, that Shavasana is implied in the performance of the mudra called Viparita Karani. Because Viparita means upside down, topsy-turvy, inverted. What you are doing, when you turn your body upside down, you are creating an opportunity in the body position for all the systems to be thrown into turmoil. And by throwing into the turmoil, you are helping the homeostatic mechanisms. The homeostatic mechanisms to come into play. And what is homeostasis all about? Finding balance. So any position where we are upside down, the legs are up and the head is down. So instead of standing on your feet, you stand on your head. That is the yogic perspective. What you have done is, by turning yourself upside down, by inverting yourself physically, you start to have a relook at all your mechanisms, the intrinsic mechanisms, and all the mechanisms which have become stagnant and underutilized. Because you're always on your feet, always your head is up, so you are never using these mechanisms. The mechanisms are like a machine that has never been used. It gets rusty. It gets spoiled, and then you have to condemn it with a condemning committee, condemnation committee that we have in institutions, to condemn a machine that it doesn't work because you have never used it in the first place. So if you are never going into a Viparita position, what you are doing is that you are not using these mechanisms. Unless you turn upside down, these mechanisms are not activated. So the moment you lie down and you bring your leg up, you stand on your head, you stand on your shoulders, you stand on your elbows, you stand on your hands, whatever you do. What you have done is, given an opportunity, you have challenged your somatic mechanisms. By changing the position of the soma, you have changed the position of the soma, challenged the mechanisms, intrinsic mechanisms, homeostatic mechanisms that aim for balance, and presto, all these mechanisms start to function once again. And the moment your homeostatic mechanisms come into play, you are going to come into a state of harmonious balance. And as the homeostatic mechanisms of the body come into play and a balance physically, physiologically, it will then lead to balance emotionally, mentally, spiritually, socially, maybe financially also. How have you attained that balance? By changing the way you use the body. If you want to change something, you have to change something first. If you want something to change, do something about it. But all of us sit on the couch and we say something should change. Yeah, get out there. Turn yourself upside down and you have changed your perspective. Suddenly the world looks very different. Again Lord Krishna tells us, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato muni. The perspective of the yogi is totally the opposite of what's happening in the world. Because they have put themselves into a position where suddenly they can adopt a new attitude, a new perspective. The somato-psychic aspects of yoga. It's not about better gluteals, okay? It's not about all of the stuff, to relax your hamstrings. That's all peanuts. That's not even popcorn. It's peanuts and popcorn. It's ice candy. What is the main movie? The main movie is your attitude change. And that is why every asana has a bhavana to it. The bhavana, an attitude that is being cultivated by doing that asana. When you do the nishpanda asana, a nishpanda bhava, an attitude of relaxation is cultivated. When you come into samasthiti, a bhavana of sama, of equanimity, balance and sthiti, stability is developed in you. When you do each of these practices, every asana, it doesn't matter what asana, it doesn't matter what tradition, it doesn't matter how you have been taught to do it. When you do that asana and you do it mindfully, mindless asana is physical exercise. Mindless asana is physical exercise. The mind has to be brought into it because it is the mind that is the primary ingredient in all of this. Because when the mind comes in, then all of this can start to happen. Otherwise, the body is doing it, but it is not become mindful, and so there is no change at the higher level. Just working at the Annamaya and Pranamaya will not bring about the full change unless the Manomaya is also involved. So the Manomaya, the Pranamaya, Annamaya have to be involved if there's going to be a change. Now, somato-psychics of asana. And when you do the asana, you have used the body to influence the mind, and as you hold that asana, or often after you come out of the asana, often the benefits of asanas are found after you come out of the asana, not even while you are doing it. Because in many of the asanas, while you are doing it, there will be a bit of tension, stress. It's eustress, of course, but what will happen is that may produce a sympathetic arousal. The sympathetic nervous system may be coming into play. But after you release the asana, you come out of the asana and you take a short break in between. This is why having a short rest between asanas is very, very recommended. Because even a few breaths, 3 rounds of deep breathing between an asana, what you have done is you have given a chance for all your systems to come into balance. The asana has pushed you out of your comfort zone, because your comfort zone was zero, slug zone. Slug zone, you have been pushed out of it. Now you want to come into a new sukhasthanam comfort zone. And so there has to be that doing and then being. There has to be that effort and relaxation. That is why prayatna and shaitilya are there in asana. Prayatna, the effort has to be there, and then shaitilya will occur. Spanda nishpanda, abhyasa vairagya, ha, ta, loma, viloma, All of this is happening. And as you do this, what starts to happen is the higher levels of your consciousness, they start to be awakened. And when your higher level of consciousness awaken, now from above down, you will start to get enhanced benefits. So initially the benefit was somato-psychic. You are using the body to influence the mind, and then as a return gift, the mind will start to influence the body in a positive way. Influencing the mind through the body, and then the influencing the body through the mind. Mind through the body, body through the mind. Mind through the body, body through the mind. In our systems, we have feedback mechanisms, positive and negative feedback in all the endocrine systems. It's a type of positive feedback you are creating. Here I am putting the body in this position to influence the mind. As a result of that, the mind will start to have another positive effect on the body. And that will again further enhance the body, mind, body medicine. Again, intellectual property theft. Mind body medicine is the original aspects of all the Indian culture. All these practices in Indian culture are the origin of mind body medicine. I wrote an article, you can find it on Google. Yoga, the original mind body medicine. Today they talk of psychosomatic medicine, mind body medicine. It's already there in yoga. It's just, new terminologies that you can then copyright, trademark and say, oh, we have found this. No, sorry. The rishis found it thousands of years ago. Give credit to those guys, okay? They didn't want credit. The rishis were altruistic. They were people who had altruism. And so they didn't want credit. But it's our dharma to give the rishis the credit they deserve. It's like, I have to give credit to Lata and my Gitananda Yoga Society in Berlin for this beautiful t-shirt. Did you see it? It's the heartbeat of the skyline of Berlin. And because, I'm always wearing my t-shirts for these sessions, Lata, Prema, and the team there, the Gitananda girls and boys of Berlin, they said, oh, we better give Ananda a new t-shirt. He keeps on wearing the same t-shirt all the time. So if any of you are looking for something to give me, send me a nice t-shirt and I'll wear it to one of these sessions. And the heartbeat. Beautiful. Berlin. Berlin all the way. The body influences the mind. Somato-psychic aspect of the asana. And as a result, the mind starts to influence the body. For me, this is something very similar to the water cycle. In environmental studies, we have something called the water cycle. So what happens is water evaporates off the water bodies, the oceans, the lakes, the rivers. And that water that goes up, then condenses and the clouds give us it back as rain. So I like to say the somato-psychic aspect of asana is the part of the water cycle where the water is evaporating and going up into the clouds. Somato-psychic, water body to the clouds. And then the psychosomatic benefits that come down. The benefits are like the rain that comes down. In our Indian culture, Barjanya is the rain that comes down. What beautiful blessing the rain is. A light rain is a blessing because rain nourishes the earth. We need rain to nourish the earth. Today we don't want rains because we have built on all the water bodies and so we have flooding. Oh, if there's too much of rain, my house will get flooded. Yeah, because you built your house where? In the middle of a lake. What you do comes back, okay? Boomerang Theory. The Boomerang Theory is absolutely there. We have built our houses in the lake and then when it rains and the lake fills up, we say, oh, my house is flooded. No. You built your house in the lake. I remember an old cartoon of a bear, one of those big bears in Canada, standing in the middle of the forest. Yeah, the bear is there in the middle of the forest. Human beings come, cut down all the trees, and the bear is just watching them where it is. It's staying in the same place. It's not moved. They have cut down the trees and then they build houses. And then there's a lady in the house, and the next frame says the lady is screaming, "Oh, a bear in my house!" No bear in your house. The bear has always been there. You have built your house around the bear, and you say, "Oh, there's a bear in my house. There's a tiger in my house. There's water in my house." And we are supposed to be wise human beings. Homo sapien sapien. Good joke, huh? Good morning joke. We are the wisest of beings. I think trees are the wisest. They just stay there and do the dharma. Trees just stay there and do the dharma. No complaints, no harm to anyone. Trees may be the most evolved beings that we know of. The water cycle, the water evaporates and goes up, and then the rain comes down. The effort you make with the body influences the mind, and then the blessings of the rain. The blessings of the rain come down to you, and you start to have that sense of sukham. You have that sense of arogyam. You have that sense of swasth. That swasth will manifest because you have made that effort. But if you don't make that effort, then what can you expect? People are always blaming God. Oh, God didn't do this for me, didn't do that. I never won a lottery. Yeah, you are complaining you never won a lottery, but did you at least buy the lottery ticket? Oh, you mean I have to do that? Yeah, if you don't buy a lottery ticket, you cannot win a lottery. It's as simple as that. And if somebody says you have won a lottery without buying the ticket, it's a scam from one of those Nigerian princes or one of those oil well widows. Okay? If you have not done what you need to do the first things first. Swamiji again and again told us, do the first things first, the rest will take care of themselves. Do the first things first, and that is why yoga is yoga pade pade, yoga step by step. You have to go step by step, working on yourself. Because as you start to work with the body, you influence the emotions and the mind. And the influence on the emotions on the mind will then come back into the body as a more calmer, peaceful effect that will then again sustain the body effort. Andathil ullade pindam, pindathil ullade andam. Yato ande tata pinde. What's up in the cosmos is in us. As above, so below. As below, so above. Wisdom from the timeless teachings of all cultures. That there is this connection. A beautiful connection. And what is the practice of asana enabling us to do? It is enabling us to strengthen this connection between the body and the mind by using the body to influence the mind, and as a result having the mind influence the body in a harmonious, positive manner. Because if you don't do this, a negative body practice will have a negative mental effect that will then again have a negative mind-body effect, and you keep on going into a vicious spiral of degeneration, disease and death. What are you doing here? You are creating the reverse of it. Prati prasava. Yeah? Prati prasava. You are going back against it. This is the normal pattern. The normal pattern, you are going against it. By what? By mindful self-effort and the desire to change, by being the change. You have to do something about it. You want to change your blood pressure. Well, do something about it. Put yourself into different postures. The moment you bring your head down, the moment you bring your head down below the heart, you have changed all the patterns of your cardiovascular rhythms, what are called baroreflex rhythms and the Mayer's rhythms and all of those. The moment you bring your head below the heart, you change it. Padahastasana, Balasana, Nikunjasana, Dharmikasana, or Viparita Karani, Sarvangasana, Shirsasana, depending on your physical condition and your present status. Because otherwise you have people saying, oh, somebody has hypertension, put them in headstand. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that you need to get the head below the heart. There are safe practices where you can bring the head below the heart. As you train the person, as this body-mind connection becomes stronger and healthier, slowly you can work them up even to the headstand. Not that they cannot do the headstand, they can do it, but not at the present moment. Because their mechanisms are deranged. Deranged mechanisms are dangerous. You have to rearrange the deranged mechanisms by creating a positive body-mind relationship that will then result in a positive mind-body relationship, and the body-mind, mind-body, body-mind, mind-body will start to then function optimally. The optimal function of psychosomatic and somato-psychic mechanisms is what health is all about. This is what I wanted to share with you today in this session, where we have tried to look at the psychosomatics and the somato-psychics of asana. Because often you find many people saying, oh, asana is not yoga. Well, asana is yoga, because everything is found in every anga. But it depends on your approach. If you are approaching asana in a mindless, hedonistic manner, well, it's just going to be exercise. But if you approach asana in its wholesome Purna Swarupa of asana will have the same effect that is had by any of the angas, because each of the angas is nourishing each other. Let us all try to be more mindful of how we utilize the body, the soma, because how we utilize the body will influence the psyche. And once you influence the psyche, that psyche in turn will influence the soma. This is the basis of Adi Vyadi, that is part and parcel of the Indian tradition of yoga for more than 5,000 years at least. 5,000 years. You heard me right. So when I say yoga is the original mind-body medicine, I'm talking of something that has been around for thousands of years. Not something cooked up day before yesterday. Not something that has been copyrighted and patented for the sake of ego gratification. Something that has been given to the whole of humanity so that we can be the best version of our own self. May you manifest the best in your life, be the best you can be, and enable others to be the best they can be. Dhanyavadaha. Thank you so much. Grazie. Ciao. Ayubovan. Ayushman Bhava. See you all when we meet next. Next week's going to be episode 80, and let's see what topic comes up for that. Thank you for being with me, sustaining my efforts by your being part of it. Love you all so much. Hari Om Tat Sat.